Hello, Serge here for the Backyard Driving Range. Oh, we have a question today that came in to customer service from Ron Crite. And Ron states, and this is a question I don't think this has ever come up yet in all the 1,400 or so dailies that I've done. But I run into this a lot on the tee, especially with the better players. And it's an unbelievably good question. Serge, why do I often hit towering shots with the lower irons, 7 through the gap wedge? Very straight, but very high. Again, from Ron Crite. It is amazing how many good players say that to me on the practice tee. These are players that came to me were having problems with ball control, consistency of hitting, and everything else, and they were being taught the rotational golf swing. One of the issues with the rotational golf swing is that because they got so much body motion and they make the huge turn, they come in, and when they spin out of the way, they have to end up having to maintain a lot of angle in the right wrist and hold that angle. And the club is, in many cases, they're coming in with the body ahead, and the club is actually in some cases being de-lofted, but they're also holding it, and their right arm is straightening out after impact, and they're sort of like, I like to call it, they're kind of like pushing the ball out through there, because they got the ball, the club and the arms are basically swinging pretty much barely anything faster than the body rotating, because they're getting all of their power with the huge turn here, snapping it to the left side. Because they're ahead, they got to hold on, because if they ever truly release like this, their balls will be going, they'll be hitting bullets straight to the left all day. So they're holding on, what I call the lag. They drag it, they hold it, they got that big angle, and they're following through a lot lower, and so they hit the ball low. And because they're cutting across the ball, they have a tendency to have always a little bit of a cut shot action. And in many cases, they're hitting it lower. And the one thing they don't ever want with a ball left to right spin is getting a ball really high in the air, especially if the wind's blowing left to right, because that'll just let that thing flutter off to the right like a leaf. Okay? But the biggest issue is they got a low ball flight because they're ahead of the ball, and they're so to speak trapping it, because they're all still trying to hit down and really stay down long through the ball. Whereas we're pop-tarting. So our balls are going to definitely go higher. So when I see these golfers come to me and they start hitting the ball up high, and even though they're hitting it solid and straight and just kind of nuking it, they see that ball in the air, and it's like, oh, it's like that's just blowing their mind. And they say, how can I play with the ball going up like this? And I said, well, there's nothing wrong with height. Just go back and look at most all you guys playing on the Champions Tour from maybe at least 4 years ago past. Go look at videos of Jack Nicklaus, or go talk to anybody who's ever saw Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson and Tom Weiskopf and all those guys back then. All the powers, even some of the guys that weren't big bombers of the ball like Kite and Crenshaw had good height to it, because they were playing behind the golf ball. They were playing golf with the arms straightened up, and they swung up, and they got into a very level finish. For years they might have had the reverse C, but look what happens when you reverse C. The clubs and the arms are coming up. They played ball in the air. And so what I tell them is just go look at all those great guys. They hit the ball super high. Height has no problem. And they hit it high right from the driver all the way to the wedges. But the key is that as long as the ball is boring through the air and penetrating and holding its line, then you've hit it solid, and you're hitting it straight, or relatively straight, and it's holding that line, which means it'll fly better into the wind, into crosswinds, downwind, because it's holding its line. There's nothing wrong with height as long as it's holding its line. Now, the thing that has to happen is eventually you have to learn to hit the ball low when you need it low, because again, if you're playing dead into a wind or into a super crosswind, you want to bring the ball down a little bit. And remember, as you bring the ball down, the ball is going to have a less of an impact to the green, and it's going to have a tendency to skip and run more. So height is great, especially with the long clubs, as long as you're controlling the ball. It's coming down at a steeper angle, so it's going to have more penetration, and it's going to have a better chance of holding the greens, especially as the greens start to get harder. And as you know, on the tour, they usually keep those greens quite hard, and so you want height coming down, not those low arching shots that hit and skip. Okay, and so in the end, it's a case of the peak performance golf swing is going to take those low penetrating those low shots that just go like very short arcs, and it's going to get you some real high penetration. But the ball has to be going out. Now naturally too high just like this is no good. The ball has to have a trajectory that's going to give it distance also, okay? And so the higher height is good as long as it's penetrating and boring through the air and holding its line. The key is to learn to hit the ball lower when you want to, and you need to hit a lower shot. And in many cases, all that is just you cut off your. You're still going to make the same setup and swing. You just come in here and you start cutting down. You start cutting down your follow through, and that's going to hit the ball lower. Or you could put the ball a little bit more back in your stance. All right, a little bit back, and you stay still and stay forward and hit it, and that'll cut it down. And so, yes, I love it. This is great. I don't think this question's ever been asked. But especially with the shorter irons, you definitely, as you say, from the 7 to the gap and including the sand wedges, we'll go higher. And that's expected because we swing up to the tee finish. We hit it, and we make impact. We hit it, we're swinging up, we're standing up AFAP like a Pop-Tart out of a toaster. Okay? We're Pop-Tarting. And that's going to add more height. But you're going to be hitting it solid and straight, and you're doing that, and it's holding its line. You're hitting good golf shots. All right? Then all you got to do is worry about learning how to hit it. We got that in the situational shots. And teaches you how to do all the techniques for that is in there, and you can get that on our site. But that's the next thing. Once you learn to hit that shot, get the lower shots, and now you got control of your golf ball. That's the ultimate way to start shooting those lower scores because you are commanding the control of your ball. All right, well, that's it for the Surge for today, and I'll be speaking with you all soon.